So here is an example of thin blue smoke. We got our side firebox burner, small flame, pretty intense. It's been going on for about, say, 15-20 minutes. We check the stack, and we'll see that smoke's pretty clear. In my opinion, it's thin. I got another cheapy smoker acting as my firebox, where I pre-burn all the wood. You can definitely see the difference in color. That smoke you can see from far away. That's the smoke you don't want to cook with. Thin blue smoke. Not so thin blue smoke. I'll show you what happens for those of you that like to just put a fresh log on a hot wood, or on a hot fire I should say. I'll take this one, this half burn. I'm going to flip it over to the unburned side. Let me see how much white smoke comes out. Let's just move back. You see it really start to turn white. I'm probably about 12 feet from the fire, you can really see that. And let's look at the efficient fire. You can barely see the smoke. Take a look over here. Get up real close. It's not billowing. You can see right through it. Let's get up real close to the other fire, see what happens. You know that's a fire. So what I'm doing is I'm pre-burning all my wood. Not all the way through. Here's an example of something I would put on the smoker right now. You can see it's pretty much been blackened. So this one I would use. This one I'd probably turn over just a little bit more before I actually put it into the smoker. And that's it. That's how you get your thin blue smoke. That's how you avoid creosote taste in your foods. Have two barbecues. Most of you, if you're like me, you started off with the cheapy offset firebox. This one was so cheap, but the firebox was an actual option, which I decided not to use. Instead of that, I put the money towards a real smoker. One of the old-fashioned ones that work really, really well. As far as wood is concerned, I bought a face cord from a local firewood dealer. He had this old red oak tree. He said it was pesticide free and it had been aged for about a year. I got a face cord for about $80. Face cord I think is about, not exactly sure, but I'd say it's in a range of maybe 700 to 1,000 pounds of wood, which is not bad because on a typical smoke I'll probably burn through maybe 5 or 6 split logs. Okay, so what we have here is beef ribs. These are plate cut, they call it. And you can see pretty thick. Bone, if you want to see the bone. There it is. Alright, there's 4 all together. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to cover these with an oil and a rub. They've been sitting overnight, basically in a dry brine. So I used a fine kosher salt and let these sit overnight. So they got this color to them. I guess that's from the dry brining. Never really noticed that until today. And I left about a 1/4 inch of fat in most places because you want that fat to render, and over the 9-hour, 10-hour process of slow cooking, as the fat renders, it keeps the meat very, very moist. So now I'm just going to apply the little film of oil, and just to show you what I've got here for our spices. We're using, here we go, Schwartz's. Anyone knows Schwartz's? They're a very famous place in Montreal. I'm not from there, but when I am there, I definitely go by. These guys know their meat, so they know their spices. I'm going to use the Schwartz's, which is basically just a salt, pepper, and a yada yada, little bit of spices in there. Nothing too elaborate. But you need to get that film. Some people use mustard. I like to use oil, grapeseed oil, in fact, because first of all, it has a high flash temperature, so it's never gonna burn. And the oil gives the surface the preparation it needs so that it can get the smoking in. Alright, so that's basically the meat, and I'm just going to apply the oil and we'll be back. Here's another example of thin blue smoke. You can actually see one looks blue, the taller stack, and the other one looks a little more on the white. Again, this one over here is pre-burning my wood. So rather than just putting straight old split logs into my fire where I'm smoking, I'm burning them separately, getting them not so much like an ember, but at least getting them blackened all around and starting to burn. So what happens is when you put that into the fire, it's not smoldering, it's just going to contribute to the efficiency that's already going on in the main smoker, the firebox over here. And that kettle, by the way, is just water boiling, which I'm going to use in my water pans. So rather than adding cold water, which will bring down the temperature, I'm just going to add boiling water into the aluminum baking pans that keep the moisture in the smoker. Again, take a good look. One on the left is blue, then blue smoke. One on the white, that's trouble. That's smoldering, inefficient combustion. That's what happens if you decide to control your temperature on your smoker by closing the damper up a bit. You're going to get that smoke. And that smoke, my friends, is creosote. And this isn't as much creosote. So there you go. Alright, so our smoker was up to temp, and we're just going to take a quick look, give you an idea what we got going on here today. And so what this is side ribs, beef side ribs. They're plate cut, which means they come from certain ribs. These would be the same cut that if you ever have short ribs, or if you ever had braised ribs, this is the meat they would be using. This is a AAA grade that I got at a local restaurant butcher supply shop, and they gave the stuff away. Actually, I got 11.5 pounds for $50. This will feed about 6 people. And again, the thing with this kind of meat is that on its own, unless you're braising it or cutting the short ribs into really thin slices and then just fast frying them, you're not really going to get a tender meat. But if you look at all the marbling, you can see that there is lots of fat, lots of connective tissue, lots of collagen. You render this on a fire around 225 for about 9 hours, maybe even 10. You're gonna get something much more different than people expect from this cut of meat. And again, the beauty of smoking is you don't have to use expensive meat, but you can make average meat taste exceptionally above average. Alright, so we talked about fire management. What can I tell you? I used to burn charcoal, toss a little bit of wood on top, and then every now and then just keep adding wood, and I'd be cooking with that kind of white smoke. Whereas now I'm cooking with this kind of smoke. And well, thin blue smoke is interesting because it's sort of elusive, meaning every cook will eventually get that thin blue smoke. I don't find that the problem. It's maintaining that blue smoke throughout your entire cook that's really a challenge. So I figured out a way, and it wasn't a hard decision. Frankly, it was something about finances, really. I looked at the cost of a bag of charcoal, and then I looked at how much I paid for this wood, and it wasn't very hard math. I'm looking at maybe a 15-pound bag of lump. It's going to run me anywhere from maybe $12 to $20, and let's just call it 800 pounds of wood. Nice, seasoned, pesticide-free, herbicide-free red oak for $80. So my cost per pound made a lot more sense if I just, in a way, created my own charcoal. So that's what we're doing. We're making, well, it's not really charcoal because charcoal is pretty much all combusted. Some of those volatile organic compounds inside the dried wood that gives meat its special flavor isn't going to be found in charcoal. But if we pre-burn the wood, not burn it all the way through, but basically just condition it so that it is at temperature, something that is suitable for an efficient combustion, then we're going to be able to maintain that thin blue smoke a lot more consistently, and obviously hopefully for the entire duration of the cook. So that's what we got here. It's log burning, getting the logs ready for their real job, which is making the meat. So quick check on the temperature. We're showing that we're still kind of low, and I'm not surprised because right now it's about 35. It's in the high 30s, which is just above zero for you metric folk, and it's giving a challenge to the smoker. But you know what? Bottom line is, we got plenty of wood going. We can keep that heat, and we're gonna make a nice, efficient fire to cook our ribs. So I'm going to show you what I mean about fire management. We've got this fresh chunk of red oak that we just added to the fire here to condition it, and the bottom side is done, so I'm just going to flip it over. Give you an idea of what happens and why we do this. So just turn it around, and what I expect at this point is some billowing white smoke to start occurring as the log heats up. The burning process at this point is still inefficient. A lot of the moisture that's still in the wood, even though the wood's dried, it's probably still got about 20% moisture. That all has to it has to burn off before the wood can start burning efficiently. Not only that, it is cold today, so the cold weather doesn't help. It actually gives a further challenge to the fire. Wood like this would probably burn to an efficient temperature a lot quicker on warmer days than it would on a day like today. So here we have an exercise in what I like to say is conditioning the wood. Well, we've got a couple of pieces or chunk of red oak that has been warming up by the flame, And when you put a chunk by the flame, you'll see that it'll burn a lot quicker. What we'll do is I'll have another chunk on the side here, and this has kind of just been in the cold weather. Hasn't been anywhere near a flame. I'm going to put that beside the fire. And let's give it a few seconds, see if anything happens. You get some smoldering. And this is why you don't just put this kind of wood into your fire that is running your smoker that's cooking your food. Just pull this out with tongs just to be on the safe side. You see that we got a little bit of ignition here, but it quickly went out. Let's just set that aside. And I'm going to put the other wood that's been facing the fire for the last little while. Let's see what happens here. Let me expose it to some fire. You see it caught fire a lot quicker. Not only that, look how big the flame is getting. So what has happened here is some of the moisture has already been coming out of the surface of the wood as it's been sitting close to the fire. More importantly though, it allows for the flame to really kick in. So that's just step one. Obviously the next step is when we get some charcoal textures on the other logs, and we take those logs, we put them into our existing smoker flame, we're going to see a very smooth transition of burn as you add logs. And really what all that means is that your thin blue smoke will be continuous and you won't get as much fluctuation in the temperature of the fire. So, you know, for all you that are new at smoking and have issues with fire management, primarily you won't get them up to temperature. This is one method, and every smoker is different, so it pays to have experience with your smoker and learn what size of chunks to use. In this case, I'm using chunks that are probably in a range of, let's just take a quick look at this one. I'd say this is about 2 by 2 in thickness, and I cut them around 7 inches long, so a normal split I might cut into 2 or 3 pieces, and that's going to give me the right I guess degree of control that I'm looking for. Because what I'll normally do is I'll put maybe 3 or 4 of these size logs into my flame, and that's going to keep my smoker at around 225. It's going to maintain that temperature consistently for about, I'd say I get a good 45 minutes to 60 minutes of burn time. So what I can normally do on days like today is I'll put the logs on the smoker, get the temperature going, then take a break for about a half an hour, 45 minutes. On a day like today, I'll probably go inside, and then I've got my remote monitor that's checking my control, and this is how I keep track of my fire temperature. If I see it going down, I'll just come right back out. I would have had a few logs on the side warming up, so I could quickly turn those logs into something that's conditioned right for my smoker fire, probably in a matter of minutes, really, 3 to 5 minutes perhaps. So I don't give the smoker too much time to go down in temperature, and I keep my thin blue smoke consistent throughout the entire 9.5 hours that it's going to take to cook these beef ribs that I have right now. Alright, we're taking a look at the wood that is burning the fire for the smoker. And if I just grab one of these pieces, I notice that it's very, very light. That means all the moisture is gone. It's just pure wood that's burning at this point. and it's releasing all the I don't know what to call them, but there's definitely organic compounds inside the wood that add flavoring to your food. Alright, another important thing obviously is the whole reason why we're doing fire management is to maintain temperature in our smoker. So what I've got here is a Horizon smoker. I think they were otherwise known as Oklahoma Joes in the past. And if I look at the gauge of the thermal that's beside the firebox, it's showing me that I'm around 225, just under. If I look on the other side is showing approximately the same. So yes, that says it's a very consistent heat. Don't forget, that's the temperature on the surface. I've also got a digital monitor that is telling me I'm doing 190. So what's going on here? Well, let's take a quick look at what's going on inside. Inside, I've got the water pans with boiling water. I've got the heat management plate that is all the way in the I guess fully closed position, which means it's directing fire towards the stack. I've got the temperature probe in the thickest meat of the three, and I've got my temperature probe all the way at the back. Let's see if you can see that here. There it is, right in the back. The reason why I put it in the back there is because I want to be able to control heat in the area where the food is smoking. So I'm looking for the grill temp that is, you know, where the bulk of the meat is. And there's no sense in having it over here, because that is not going to give you an accurate reading of the environment that the meat is cooking in. What you really want is to put the thermostat probably in what you would assume is maybe the coolest area of where you're cooking, and that'll give you a much better read of what's going on. And as you can see, because I opened the lid, I dropped down, looks like I dropped about 55 degrees, but because the heat's burning efficiently, it's going to come right back up, and I should be back up to temperature in probably just a minute or two. Again, on the thermostats, you can see that they went down pretty quickly, and that's obvious because the lid was open. Again, take a quick look at the stack. We see that there's a thin blue smoke. It's barely visible. That means our fire is really efficient. If I look into the fire, I can see I've got a nice orange flame going. It's not a huge fire. And there's definitely no white smoke. Okay, so it's time to add some more wood to our fire. Good luck. We're just over 200. Smoke, check. Thin blue smoke. It's been pretty steady for the last hour and a half. I've got another piece of wood that I've conditioned. It's my new word I'm adopting. And really all I'm trying to say is I'm getting this wood ready to continue my thin blue smoke. So I'm just going to take a quick look into our fire. Alright. Looks pretty good. Now we're going to get our other piece of wood. We're going to add that to the fire. Alright, as you can see, it's burning pretty good. Let's close her up. Take a quick look at the temp. Temp will obviously go down a little bit because I opened the firebox, but it should start to creep back up fairly shortly. In the meantime, quick check on our smoke. As you can see, once again, that smoke isn't billowing white. You want to see billowing white smoke? That's over here, and that's easy to do. All we do is we add piece of raw wood to the fire, and then you'll see that stuff turn white real fast. Again, the smoke you do want, and go back. There you go. All that white stuff, that's the smoke you don't want. And let's just go back. Let's check out our gauge. As you can see, we're jumping back up. And if you remember before, I've got the probe that's giving me the 203 reading, which is now 205. That's the probe that is positioned in the colder part of the smoker, and that means that the other temperature gauges, which are still good quality, but I don't rely on them hardly ever, have also gone back up. And again, we should have 225 consistency. I know this says 207, but that's at the back, so obviously closer towards the fire where most of the meat is, it's going to be a little bit warmer. And again, this temperature should maintain itself for probably 45 minutes. In the meantime, what I'll do is, just to make sure that we're not overcooking this wood, just going to separate it a little bit. Alright, so we don't have too much burning. Okay, and what we're doing is, by separating it, I'm kind of slowing down the burning process. Now I'm just going to choke it. That choking will give me a smoldering. And that should occur over the next 45 minutes or so. That fire will not go out until I'm ready to condition a little more wood. As you can see, we saw this before. I left a little bit of wood on the side. That's going to bring it up to temp, so that when I do put it on the flame, it's going to ignite really quickly. Alright, so we're checking it. We're looking at 230. That's the grill temp. Temp above the meat. It's bang on 225. That's the side by the firebox. On the other side by the chimney, we're just a couple of degrees cooler. Nothing to worry about. Quick check on the smoke. You can see, well, you could barely see it, but there's heat. Very, very thin blue smoke. That's a very efficient fire. Again, this is not what you want to cook with. This is the kind of smoke that you don't want. Right now the wood is smoldering. It's waiting for me to go back and get some more for our smoker. This is the smoke that is cooking our food. That's what we do want. Again, you know what? Don't worry. In this case, because we're cooking ribs for 9 hours, one way or another, that smoke flavor is going to penetrate. And because we're cooking it this method, we're not going to get an overwhelmingly strong smoke flavor. We're going to get very nice, subtle, complex smoke character. Something that you can't really get in a restaurant. Alright, we're obviously a few hours into the cook. I wouldn't say we're halfway yet, but our meat probe is showing around 167. This is typically the time when you would get what a lot of smokers in the business would call the stall. I love the stall because that's the time when the meat doesn't start changing temperature too much. It's busy rendering the fat and trying to liquefy the connective tissue, the collagen and whatnot. It did jump up to 169, and that's because it probably just went down a little bit as I just added another log. As you can see, the temperature is holding steady, 225, 226. That's the temperature in the cooler side of the grill. Up above, our true temp gauge is pretty much dead on at 225, and that's the gauge by the firebox. On the cooler side, where the stack is, we're showing a little bit of discrepancy, or a differentiation, I should say. It's not really a lot. It's no big deal. Part of the reason is probably because I have my tuner plate still in all the way in the in position. A quick check on the smoke. You can see the thin blue smoke is still thin and blue, just the way I like it. And I'll pan over to the other side. You can see the billowing smoke, and that's where my fire is going. That's where I pre-ignite all the wood. A lot of it's smoldering right now, and that's because I really don't need any more wood right now. Again, smoking is all about fire management. You want to make sure that your fire isn't too big. If you can see quite clearly, my damper is fully open. I've got a nice orange flame going. Probably got about 3 of those logs that are dry and are igniting very efficiently. So, how about we just take a quick look? Let's see. Take a look at the food. Let's see what we got. Oh wow, you can see the bones have definitely pulled back a little bit. I suspect part of it is because the temperature towards the mid-end of the cooker is a little hotter than where my probe is at the back. Not bad if I consider maybe giving these a flip real soon. But we'll wait off on that for a little while longer. Water pan still fairly full, so we've got a nice moist environment. And if you remember, I applied some grapeseed oil along with my rub, and that's going to give the surface of the meat the texture it needs to attract that smoke. But we've got good smoke, good circulation, good temperature, good consistency. Yeah, and this is how you cook, you know. All right, so we're past the stall. We're about 5.5 hours into our cooking, and we'll take a good look. We still got that thin blue smoke. Quick check on my other fire, it's showing that I've managed to keep it going actually since this morning, and it's actually quite easy. Once you get a log burning, just toss a few more and keep your fire going real easy. So I've got it open right now because I want it to condition another log, or pre-burn I should say. Quick check on the temps. Again, we're bang on, like pretty much 225 all the way. The chimney side, of course, nah, it's a couple of degrees cooler. That's normal. Just gonna open up the hatch and see what we've got going on inside. Look at that. Water pans still got some water. We got some good bark on our ribs. You can see they've pulled back on the bones. Everything is looking very nice. What's our temperature? We're at 183 on the meat. We'll try and bring this up to 190. So I'd say we've got maybe about an hour left. Okay. So we've been keeping steady in the 220, 230 range. Almost 8 hours now. And as you can see, our gauge says the meat is at 194. So we've brought it over and above the well done stage. And just take a quick look and see what our meat looks like. Water pans still have some moisture, and here we've got our meat. As you can see, a lot of the fat cap that was on there originally looks like it's rendered quite nicely. Of course, the beef has shrunk a fair amount, but then again, this is why you get a lot to begin with, because as you know, it doesn't last very long once it's done. And you can see the bone has, or the beef has pulled back on the bone on both sides. If you look down here, this is our thickest piece, and it looks like it's cooked real good. So I think we've got probably about a half an hour left to go. I'm just going to close this guy up. and let it reach a few more degrees. I like to let it go to about 198. I don't usually, or I've never gone up to 200, although I have read that some will go right up to 205. But I'm going to keep it somewhere around 198, and then I'll let it rest. Got one more log I'm going to put on the fire. A few more spare splits that I think I'm going to put away for another day. But yeah, half an hour, and I'm going to wrap that up in foil. I'm going to towel it, put it in the cooler. Dinner is in about an hour from now, and we should have something very good. We'll find out soon enough.